Okay, so by now you've read through all the documentation, you've watched the video tutorials, you've logged into your property, done all that sort of thing, and now it's time to actually do the real work, which is moving files, and that's what this video is all about today. So what I've done, because I'm working from one screen, is I opened up my SharePoint demo property, and then I just sort of sized it to be about half the width of my available screen, and I did the same thing with Windows File Explorer. And I've opened up the Apartments drive to my test property here, SP property. And you can see it's got the same folders that any property would have. I basically just copied this from a property, and it should be pretty familiar to you. So what we're going to do is basically move things from the file share, from the Apartments drive, over to these SharePoint document libraries. And it's not always a one-to-one relationship. There's not always a folder here and a library here. That does happen sometimes, but it's pretty obvious to see that basically anything from these folders is going to eventually need to be saved into one of these document libraries. Okay, and we'll start out with a pretty easy one today, the Accounts Payable folder. So what I've already done, and what most of you have probably done by this time, is created a to be archived folder. And you can see that for my AP, I don't need to bring over 2014 and 15 into SharePoint, so those are in the Accounts Payable to be archived folder. And that's as it should be. Today, we're going to go to Accounts Payable, and we're going to move our 2016 documents over here into this SharePoint library. So I open up the folder. I want to do it one vendor at a time. That'll just make things a little bit easier. And so I'm going to click all of my Home Depot receipts. And I'm going to drag them over here. You can see that SharePoint provides you with this little drop here box. And you can easily see the blue border. You need to have your cursor in the blue border to actually drop the files. If you're outside the border, it's not going to drop them. So you have to be inside that blue border, drop them here. It's going to take a minute, and then it's going to tell you that you've uploaded X number of documents. So that's great, and you've got them here, but now we need to do the two operations. We need to tag them, and then we need to check the documents in. I'm going to expand this window just because it's a little more pleasant to look at that way. The first thing we need to do to tag the documents is use this view called All Documents. This AP view groups all documents by vendor. Right now we don't really need to use that grouping. We need to be in the All Documents view. And I'll just point out here in this All Documents view, this will be important for step 2. Take note of this little green arrow pointing downward. That basically means that all of these files are not yet checked in. So they're all checked out to me, which means only I can see them at this point. If you guys logged into the same library as me, you would not see these documents yet. So on the part 1, what we need to do to tag them, to get our AP vendor and our year tagged, is go to the Library tab and click Edit. But I'm going to minimize this really quickly and just show you the concept of folders sort of goes away once we hit SharePoint. And so here's what happens. Right now, I've got my Scanned Documents folder, and then underneath that I have my Accounts Payable. Underneath that, I've got my specific year, and then I've got even more folders under that. So it's a very hierarchical kind of setup. SharePoint is not. SharePoint really only has one folder, or more properly called document libraries. And then instead of having folders in here, we have columns. So like we had a year column in the AP folder, a year folder in the AP folder. Over here, I have a column for year. And I'll show you right now what that's going to look like. So we're ready to edit. We went into Library, Quick Edit. When I hit Quick Edit, you see that this turns into something very much like an Excel table. And so to get part 1 done, we have to pick a vendor to tag. And that vendor is obviously Home Depot. If I click these tags, I see Home Depot is in my selection area. I can select OK, hit OK again, and I've just tagged this document with the AP vendor Home Depot. Another way to do that, if I know my list of vendors, I can just type and it will autofill for me. And since I know the year I want, I can just type in the year. And then just like Excel, to copy this to all of these documents, I can just click this little blue box. Once it turns into a plus sign, drag it down, and now I'm done. I just tagged all of my documents with the required AP vendor and year. Receipt date is not required, and so I'm not going to put that in because the naming convention here has the specific date in the document title. So now I'm going to stop editing, which in SharePoint equals saving. But you notice no one's going to be able to see these documents. I haven't checked them in yet, and that's step 2. So all I need to do here is select all, hit my More button, and check them in. I'm going to accept the defaults, just hit OK. And there we are. The little green box is gone. Now, if any of you logged into this specific library, you would see all these documents. And that's really as complicated as things get. That's all we need to do to move documents into the library, tag them, and then check them in. If we want to see what these look like now, in our normal default view, you see that now we've got 6 Home Depot documents in our AP document library. So just so we get some practice, let's do another vendor. So we're still in 2016. I'm going to grab the Wegmans receipts. I'm going to click and drag them in. And then just like we did before, I'm going to go to my All Documents view. I'll expand this window so it's easier to see. And you can see my AP vendor and year are blank for the Wegmans docs, and they're still checked out to me. So I'm going to go to Library. I'm going to quick edit. We know who the vendor is, so let's just type ahead. Obviously, we know the year. Click and drag to copy. Oops, see, I must have done something wrong there. It tells me if it's not going to accept this, and I bet you what I did is not properly select the year. So I type in the year ahead. I have to click on this little yellow highlight area in order for it to really be happy about that. I click out of that cell, and I no longer get a little red error. So I should be able to copy this down and see that my errors have been removed. So we're good to go there. I'm going to save or stop editing, and then I'm going to check these documents in. More, check in. Default, OK. Go back to my default view. And now you can see I have 2 groupings of vendors. So that's really about as simple as it is to move one vendor or one set of documents into your library. The process is always the same. You bring a document into a library, you tag it, and then you check it in. If we are going to do this with a single document, I'm going to do AC 1182. Sorry, not the click and drag. I want to show you the other way we do this. If you have a single document, you can just upload. You can go out to Browse. We can find our property folder. And say that's the document I want to pull in. And I didn't know this ahead of time, but the preview tells me it's really a Wegmans document. I'm going to click OK. And now what it does is gives me the properties and allows me to check in. So I can kind of do this in one step. So we knew from the preview this is a Wegmans document. We know that it's from 2016, and be sure to click the yellow highlighted area. We're going to leave the date blank. And let's just change this title to indicate that it's Wegmans. And now we can check it in. So we tagged first, we checked it in, and now instead of having 2 Wegmans documents, I have 3. The best thing to do once you've moved a set of documents like this, and you know that they're in your library, you can expand to see them. Once you know they're in the library, the best way to avoid any confusion, delete them from your folders. So now we moved them, we checked them in, we know that they exist here, we deleted them from here so that we're not tempted to go back to this folder, or so that we don't confuse things and all that sort of thing. So once again, we're going to do exactly the same kind of thing here. We're going to move our Home Depot documents from 2016. Going to drop them. Going back to our All Documents view, I'll expand this. You can see the holes here. Go to our library. We're going to quick edit. And in this case, they're Home Depot documents. So we don't have to re-tag them by going through the tag selection process. We can just copy the one above. Stop editing equals save. Notice these guys are not checked in yet. The check-in, when you click and drag, is probably, well, it's probably the most important thing because no one can see it unless you check the thing in. If you tag these incorrectly or you forget to tag, tagging incorrectly can be fixed later. If you forget to tag something, SharePoint will bark at you and give you an error message and won't let you save until you tag. So that one you can't really mess up. You could possibly accidentally copy this as a Wegmans tag, but you can change that anytime in the future. Checking in, though, is most important because until you do that, you're the only person that has access to those documents. So let's get these checked in. Once again, I'm accepting the defaults. I'll go back to my default view. And now I've got 11 Home Depot documents. Remember what we said, so there's no confusion and so you don't lose your place. Once they've been moved, let's delete them from the original file. Let's get all of Wegmans done. It's a pretty simple process. You can see down here that we tagged 10 items, so I expect when we're done in the Wegmans grouping, we should have 13. So you remember the steps, we drag them in. We're going to go to our All Documents view. Expand this to make it easier to see. Here's our documents. We're going to go to our Library tab. We're going to click Edit. These are Wegmans. And so I can edit here. You have to be careful not to go too far. If I let go here, then I just mistagged all of those 4 Home Depot files. So you have to kind of pay attention and be careful. So we'll tag those. These are all Wegmans. Tag those. Stop to save. And then finally select to check in. If we go back to our group, we'll see how many Wegmans documents we have now. I don't want to do that. I want to see my AP view. So, something happened. And honestly, I don't know what. I expected to see 13 documents there, not 12. And so, things like that are going to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I was wrong before. I said 10 items, it was 9 items selected. There's 10 items in the folder. 9 plus 3 that used to be here is 12, so we're perfectly fine there. Last step, what do I do with these guys? I make sure that I get rid of them so there's no confusion. And let's just get this last one done. I'm going to show you something that you will most likely run across. We're going to click and drag just like normal. We're going to go to our All Documents view. There's our most recent document. We're going to go to the library, click Edit. We're going to try and do a type ahead MasterCard. But look at that, nothing's coming up. So if I go to the tags themselves, I see that I don't have MasterCard in my list, and I don't have any way to add it. There's no add item anywhere. In this case, what I would do is get rid of this document. So stop editing. Don't save changes. Up to more, and instead of checking in, we're going to delete this. We're going to leave it here. And essentially, what we know is in 2016 receipts that you need a MasterCard vendor type. And what you're going to do is email IT support and let me know that you need an AP vendor type added. I'm going to add it in, and then you'll be able to select it. Now, I'll do this ahead of time, right after this webinar, but you may find times when a tag is needed that is not yet created. And when that happens, you just email IT support, you request that it gets created, and we'll get it set up for you. The reason we're doing it that way is everybody will end up with the same set of tags that way. If we let everyone decide that a MasterCard tag should be spelled with a space between Master and Card, and somebody else decides that MasterCard is just one word, well, then we have a little bit of a conflict. And so we want to keep everything very uniform, and therefore we're not allowing anyone to create these tags. If you need them, email IT support and they'll get created for you, but that way they'll be uniform for all properties. So really, that's about it. That took us 20 minutes, and it took longer because I'm talking over all of it, but we moved AP for 1 year in just about 20 minutes. If I go back to my AP view, there's our Wegmans documents and our Home Depot documents. And we're good to go for 2016. We would do exactly the same thing for this printed folder. And we would do exactly the same thing for the 2017. So we focused on AP just because it's short, but accounts receivable is exactly the same process. You have a few more folders, and you certainly have a few more files. Now I notice in this particular example that I've got some 2017 files in the 2016 folder. The lesson there is just be careful, pay attention to what folder you're in, what documents you really want to move. You could move these out of here into the 2017 folder, or you could simply decide when you're moving these just to move them, go ahead and tag them 2017, and you'll be okay. And in fact, let's do that. I'll show you what I mean there. We're in our accounts receivable library. And remember, instead of a folder in SharePoint, I've got columns. I'm going to drop them inside the blue box. It's going to take a second or two for them to upload. So down here it says I selected 11 items. This says I added 11, so we're good to go there. What are we going to do? All documents. Library. Quick edit. These are all cash receipts, and how did I decide that? Well, because they're coming from the cash receipts folder in the old share, and so I'm just going to maintain that convention here. These happen to be, even though they're in the 2016 folder, they're really for 2017. And so it's okay. We'll just tag them that way here. And that's kind of nice because now they're not in the wrong folder. I'll stop editing to save. Select all, check in, accept defaults. Go to my AR view. And there you go. I've got all my documents here. And delete these because I'm certain that I did this correctly. And now, except for a couple of stragglers here and there, you can see that I've got 2016 documents available. So I'm going to pick and choose. I'll do it the other way. I'll get all of my 2017s. And it looks to me like that's all the 2017 documents. And I'm looking at this naming convention title. So let's get all of these moved. Just uploaded 3 documents, and there they are. All documents view. Library. Click edit. Now here, I've got them, they sort of ended up being spread out a little bit. If I didn't want it that way, I go up to my modified. And this is when it got modified and who did it. If I want the most recent ones, I just sort descending. And it'll put blanks there first. And so I just kind of grouped the documents that I just brought in. Once again, we know they're cash receipts, and they're from the year 2017. I click and drag up. Save by stop editing. Step 2, check in. I've got all my 2017 cash receipts right here. Let's get rid of them in the old spot. And now, as you can see, as I scan quickly down this, I have all 2016 documents. So you can pay attention to a couple of things in your Internet Explorer or Windows Explorer window. There's a total of 86 items here. You can upload, click and drag, up to 100. So I'm going to select them all. I'll show you what that looks like. I've got 86 items in the folder, 85 of them are selected. You can see the 85 right under the PDF here. Now, this is going to take a little bit longer because I just copied almost 100 files. So you kind of need to wait for this to complete. I'll expand. And it's taken a while because it's thinking. So this, once again, you need to pay attention to this kind of thing. Something failed. So this 11/29/2016 file failed on us. So let's find that. (11/072) bank report. So that's a bad file. There's really not much that we can do about that. So when we go to delete, we're not going to delete this one. We're going to keep it there. But we see that we did get 84 out of the 85. And I'm just going to leave this highlighted so I know not to delete that one for now. But this is good that we see this kind of stuff because obviously it's going to happen every now and again. For now, the procedure is exactly the same, right? We just got all of our 84 files there. We need to go to All Documents. Click Edit. We're going to modify by, or sort by modified descending. And you can see it only shows you 30 documents at a time. These are cash receipts for the year 2016. Click my yellow highlighted area. Click and drag. Oops. Click and drag. Go on to page 2. Same old stuff. We don't have a dash management category. So this isn't the most exciting stuff to watch, but the idea was to make it a little less scary as well, so that you can see that the whole process. You can see what happens if mistakes are made or if errors occur, and the world doesn't end, or any such thing as that. Cash receipts. So we just tagged 84 files. I'm going to stop editing to save. Go back to the beginning. Select all these documents and check them in. Remember, it's always a two-step process. We tag and then we check in. Wait for the system to catch up here. Go to page 2. Same thing. Select all. Check those in. We'll select all of these, but I saw that down here there were some that are already checked in, so we'll deselect those. Accept the defaults. That's it. We'll just make sure that we're good to go. Now, I didn't note before how many documents we had, but basically we had 84 that we just did. And so you can see it's pretty quick to get things tagged and checked in. Let's minimize this and go back to our library. Remember, we have to save this one. I'm just going to do this. And I'll know that I can delete everything except that one. So at this point, not really sure what can be done about a corrupted file, but at least we have a little bit of information of, if anybody comes in here and says, hey, I'm missing 11/29/2016, what happened? Well, I can't bring it over here because it's corrupt. Miscellaneous check deposits, we can move over. We're going to go to our All Documents view. We need to find it, and the easiest way to do that once you get a bunch of documents is to sort on modified. And what are we going to do? We're going to go to Library, click Edit. This was not a cash receipt. This was a miscellaneous check deposit. And so I'm not quite sure what that tag is. It could be miscellaneous checks. And that's what I'm going to tag it with, miscellaneous checks. Now, if you want something called miscellaneous check deposits, once again, note, you can't just add things willy-nilly. Email IT support. We will talk to the powers that be, and if we need a new one, a separate one that says miscellaneous check deposits, we'll create it. If everyone agrees that miscellaneous checks is okay, well, then that's where we're going to put it, and we'll leave it as is. But our aim there is consistency, so that eventually everyone will call these things the same thing across the board. We tagged it with our year and made sure that we clicked the yellow highlight area, so that should not give us an error. And stop editing. Check the document in. Where is check in? When you do a single document, you don't get the same menu. If I checked two of these, it's kind of a long story, but because one of them is not checked in, it's only giving me a delete function. Obviously, we don't want that. Let's uncheck that. Go to more. You just have to go to the advanced tab down here. So if you've got a single document checked, it gives you a different menu. You have to go to advanced and then check in. Accept defaults. It's all good. Go to our view, and you can see now we've got two document types. We've got a cash receipts group, and we have a miscellaneous checks group. So I think that's a good stopping point. That gives you the basics of how to move stuff. It kind of hopefully demystifies the whole process of, well, where do I put things, or how do I tag them, or why can't I see something? Generally, the answer to why can't I see a document is, well, because somebody didn't check it in yet. And so that's the first thing to check on. If you don't see metadata columns, if you don't see tags that you need, if you really need miscellaneous check deposits, like I said before, email IT support and we'll get that going. Otherwise, that's it. That's the basics. We're asking basically in a sort of crowdsourcing way. We have many properties to get moved. We're going to ask you to move them. We'll set up future webinars where we have several property managers all together at the same time on a webinar, and the IT staff will be on board, and we will be there to help with questions and to possibly make new metadata columns and tags and that sort of thing. So stay tuned for phase 2. We appreciate you watching phase 1, and we will see you soon. Thank you.